Good evening, everybody, and y'all welcome to another Wednesday night episode of Farm Life Live. You have myself at the Anderson's farm. You have Brent Anderson with Fastline Fast Track. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing good, man.
And Dusten Hoffman, Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. How about yourself?
It's wet and it's windy. I think we've hit a max of like 3 miles an hour.
3 miles an hour.
Yeah.
But at least you knew yours was coming.
I'm like this.
Like I said, at least you knew yours was coming.
Well, Brent, how have you been doing this week?
Man, I've been doing real good. We've had another busy week here. A lot of stuff going on. We're getting ready for that virtual farm science review show that's going to be coming up here next week here. So we've got a bunch of stuff we're getting ready for that, and getting the finishing touches on the radio show and the podcast for this week. And had another live stream last night on the music side last night, and just a whole lot going on these days.
Well, I understand. What have you heard? Have you heard anything on National Farm Machinery Show yet?
I have not. We're supposed to be meeting on that again pretty soon. Nothing new since the last time we talked. Everything is still a go as far as we know. But again, that's all subject to change. And I was actually just looking at a headline here before we got on here about one of the top health officials in the country talking about how we might not see any kind of widespread vaccine till the middle of next year here, which doesn't give me any real high hopes for a lot of these events that are going to happen here, at least in the first half of 21.
No, and you're right. You're right 100% there. Exactly. Dusten, what have you heard on your end with COVID?
You know, we just talked to I had in my monthly podcast with the Iowa Secretary of Agriculture, Mike Nag, and his assistant was telling me right before we went on that they already canceled spring break activities for the kids up here in Iowa and stuff because they don't want them traveling. They don't want them. They basically put lockdowns on them already for next year's spring break because they just don't know. Again, subject to change if something does change. But yeah, I mean, when you think about it, get all those kids congregating together somewhere and then coming back. But then again, I don't know how a school is going to stop a kid from traveling. But you know, it is what it is, but it's, you know, things are a little bit, I have to apologize. My neighbor turned on his lawnmower the moment we went live. As far as COVID goes, you know, we're just trying to weather through it. In fact, our governor is just reopening bars again in our county. There was 6 counties, basically counties around the metropolitan areas of Des Moines and Cedar Rapids, and Waterloo and Council Bluffs. They closed 6 counties 2.5, 3 weeks ago. And now she's reopened them as of today again. But don't know how long that's going to last either. I mean, they've been kind of just being fluid with that as things have been going on. But that's all we've got on COVID from Iowa's front.
Wow. Yeah, we're hearing little odds and ends here, but nothing a whole lot here. I mean, really not a whole lot here. And now if you can hear the noise behind me, though, the noise behind me is the tobacco barns running. And I'm going to tell you what, you're talking about an aroma. Cooking tobacco is definitely an aroma. Well, Dusten, tell us a little bit about the EPA ruling this week and where we stand with it. We've all waited for months now. Well, we've waited for over a year on it.
You know, it's funny when I wrote my story, the first thing I said was the weekend that ethanol had was better than what they could have asked for. But then I caught myself. I said, but this is exactly what they've been asking for.
Yeah.
These gap year waivers that we've been hearing so much about, and for those that maybe don't understand how it works, with these small refinery exemptions that they've been putting in, the gap year waivers would allow them to go back from like 2011 to 2018 and apply for waivers for gas and stuff that should have been, and ethanol that should have been blended long ago. Which that would have done is given the oil companies a support to stand on to basically keep requesting waivers forever as long as the RFS stays in law of the land. And so the EPA, and I know Senator Ernst and Senator Grassley here, among others in the Midwestern states, have been leaning on the president because, Andrew Wheeler was at the Iowa State Fair a year ago, a little over a year ago, or 2 years ago now, rather, and he stood there, and it was right after he had taken the reins as the acting administrator and said, I'm going to fix this mess that Scott Pruitt put us in. And he did nothing about it. In fact, made it worse. And so that was the situation we had. And, the EPA finally ruled on Monday that they were going to reject 54 of the 68 gap year waivers. Now, why they only rejected 54 is that 14 are still pending approval by the Department of Energy. Now, according to the rules, and I talked with the Iowa Renewable Fuels Association Executive Director Monty Shaw, and he said, hey, the rules are the rules. Department of Energy can go ahead and review them. That they're allowed their due process to see if they qualify, even though the waiver process is archaic at this point. It has been for several years. As they said, this thing was put into place so these smaller refineries, as the RFS was put in place, would have more time to get up and get to, because it was going to be more work for them to get up and become part of the RFS. It was get from pre-RFS world to being in the RFS world. And it was never meant for big companies to go and just skirt off the responsibilities of what they were supposed to blend. And so the whole thing has been about, getting that 15 billion gallons that the mandate says has to be blended. And so they're working on that. There was, been court rulings saying that it has to be met. And these gap year waivers were just another way to get around these court rulings that they could do it to establish a precedent. And Brennan's gone. So anyway, it was established a precedent. Well, the EPA pulling this away from them basically says, no, you don't have a precedent. You need to start blending. You didn't qualify for hardships then, which basically, according to the rules of the RFS, if the RFS gets followed the way it's supposed to, when I talked with the Iowa Renewable Fuels Association, they said this should put an end to them completely. No matter if the 14 that are still at the Department of Energy get approved, EPA has already said, nope, we're not doing it. If they use the same guidelines, they should be just approving these other 14 that are still left, plus any more, because there's no basis for them to go on anymore for these yearly waivers, unless something drastic has come up for a company, like they had a catastrophe at the company, then obviously that's what the program is supposed to be for. Because like they said, if there's a company that literally cannot, an oil company, not make its obligations for some reason, a legitimate reason, and no, they shouldn't be held. It should be blended somewhere else. That was the whole idea. Like these ethanol people have said, if the oil company legitimately has a problem, they have no problem with granting a waiver. It's just not granting one because they want to blend it. And so they're hoping that this shouldn't be a problem anymore for yearly ones or going back. And in fact, they said if they decide on these 14 to grant those waivers after they rejected 54, they're going to be in for a huge legal battle. And the courts have not been siding with the EPA on these battles over these waivers. So we're hoping that this long exemption nightmare is finally over.
Now, when will that start helping up the production as far as the corn production, as far as ethanol production goes?
It's going to be anybody's guess. I mean, right now the market had been so bad that they were already starting to shutter. Then COVID hit and they were shuttering even more or shutting down completely. Hopefully with this coming up, they're going to start to see that demand pick back up. It'll give some certainty to these companies who have been sitting there basically idle because, well, there's no value in the market right now. I mean, these RIN prices went from $1.25 to 8 cents in a matter of just a few months. And so, that was a big loss to that industry. I mean, they couldn't afford to produce ethanol. But now with some certainty returning to the market, and now also the federal government releasing the loopholes that will allow them to put E15 gas into E10 pumps if the state decides that's what they want to do. Again, this is up to the state. All the federal government and there are people that are going nuts, and some of the environmentalists or some people who are anti-ethanol, and I should say environmentalists, anti-ethanol, and the oil industries are talking about, oh, this is taking away choice. No, all it's doing is removing the federal block that says the states can do what they want. Let the states do it. We're not going to interfere. If they want to go that route, fine, go that route. Iowa's been pushing for it for a while. If a state doesn't want to, no big deal. But the option is now there. The federal government is hands off. So it's going to, hopefully we'll see that demand start to pick up. Of course, we lost a lot of demand when COVID hit. But also, hopefully, we're going to see that demand pick up where they have certainty now that there is a market for that product.
Well, that's cool. That's cool, though. Guess who just joined me?
I don't know. Who just joined you?
Benji.
Well, hello. Benji's there.
How you doing?
Better than I deserve. How are you, sir?
Really good. Everybody's good.
Now, Benji, Saturday, a lot of y'all saw the video Saturday or Sunday of in the warehouse of the tobacco finasco. Unlike corn that gets a little hot or a little wet, it's kind of hard to dry tobacco, to re-dry tobacco. Well, tell us a little bit behind us. People can hear it running. Of course, now behind us, also check out this baby, Dusten. Look at there.
Straight out of your country. That's where it come from.
Wow, I ain't seen one of them in a long time.
Benji, tell us a little bit about what you guys do with tobacco, and tell us a little bit about how you guys do with it.
The biggest thing that what you saw, what day was that? Whatever day we done.
Sunday.
We were having to re-dry it. When you cook this, when it gets cooked, then you have to what we call get it back in order or get it back in case. Some people call it case, but getting it back in order. And when we usually just let it run at night with night air, open the dampers, and it gets to more of like a dollar bill feel where you can handle it and not like potato chips. And when you run it more than 2 nights, we've got some barns that you run one night, it's enough. Some barns, if you run one night, it's not enough. So we'll run a few of them different, and it's kind of a guessing game to get it where you want it to be. And anyways, we knew it was marginal on the line, and we done it, and it was a little bit wet. We decided to rebale it. It was still a little bit wet, so that's just.
I'm gonna tell you what, that was a hot warehouse too.
It was hot in there. Yes,
and of course, you get on the forklift and you break your forklift.
Yeah, mine's pretty ancient, but a lot of our tobacco goes to the foreign market, China, of course, and they're kind of, I guess, to say the least, they're more like we were here in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and they actually smoking, and they still big smokers, and it's more like sitting around in a smoking. Kind of behind on that. So that's kind of what they're doing, and that's the reason it's still a big market over there.
Now, Benji, let's talk a little bit about, of course, you and Garrett. Now, we've all heard you and Garrett. We've heard Kelly and Matt. It's all a family. When you're with family, you got to be prepared for what happens. But how long have you and Garrett been farming?
Me and Garrett were raised up in car seats on open tractors. I mean, that's just what we do. I mean, I can remember the very first crop I put in or really had anything to do with was in 1991 or 92. And I planted some soybeans my dad gave me about 3 acres of soybeans for helping him. I'm 43, so whatever the math would be, I don't know. But me and Garrett have been, as far as Anderson brothers, since 2003. And it's challenging. I mean, it's rewarding, but it's challenging. I mean, me and him we're trying to live up a legacy of our farm has been here. And my family's been on this farm since 1893. So it's kind of like the old song Clarence Carter sang, "Patches, I'm depending on you, son." We're just trying to stay here a little longer. I mean, I don't want to be the one that dropped the ball. So,
well, and you guys have diversified and done things that a lot of people don't do. You've got hemp, you got tobacco, you got pecans. So, I mean, we were just down a little while ago. I did a quick live down there playing around. Garrett was cleaning up limbs.
These pecan trees are the one at orchard you were in are probably 1934 models. These here are 1924 models, so that's a lot of years, a lot of birthdays. But I
noticed the old farmhouse has a tree on it.
Yeah, I saw it fell on it. My little yard art. We also have a wedding venue. We were in the corn maze business for a while. We've done things that people didn't want to do. I mean, we, whatever it took to kind of stay here, and we're small. So, I mean, this farm that we're on is 170 acres here, and then we bought farms and added to it. So, and we tried to kind of what land we did buy, we put irrigation on it. And I don't know. I just believe in. I'm all about vintage equipment. I mean, I don't really want it, but it's equipment's in my opinion, is a depreciating asset. Land and pivots is going to go up in value. Like, I really believe that's. So, man, me and Garrett's ultimate goal was to try to focus on building and buying more land and putting irrigation on everything that we own.
Well, now, Dustin,
that's interesting the way you said that, though, Benji, because there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, we farmed a small farm in Minnesota growing up, but we had, I was 9 years old in '89 when Dad bought a 3010, and that was in the '60s when the 3010 come out. And so, I mean, you didn't have to have new equipment to make a go of farming as long as you had good, solid equipment. The value, like you said, it's in the land. I mean, that's what holds its value later going through this.
And that's what we, I mean, I don't want the corn snapper to be an idea of everything we got, but the deal with the corn snappers in 2011, we saw a need to fill with ear corn for deer hunters. Deer hunting's a big thing here, and we got to where we could feed the deer, bait them, whatever you want to call it. And so in 2011, I got on the phone and I called. Can't remember. I think it come from Southern Illinois is where we got that. And I called, and he said, "Yeah, I got just what you need." Here, a corn snapper's been out of date. I mean, people don't have that kind of stuff anymore. So we had to go out of state, more in your area, to find something to fit the bill. And it's done. We've had it since 2011, and
well, I bet it's like you said,
equipment is way better shape than a Southern Belle.
If that equipment still runs, I mean, it's what you need to get the job done. And there's
yeah.
I gotta ask you. I gotta ask you though, Benji, your hemp. What's the how much hemp do you grow, and what are the rules down there for you guys for growing hemp? I know in Iowa we got a maximum of 40 acres, and I'm just asking what the markets are for you guys, because that's a big question. A lot of farmers looking to get into it up here in the north are looking at.
I wish Garrett was here. That's more his. Garrett's the hemp king right now. But I mean, we got in. We had the opportunity. We went to several different seminars and had different people approach us about growing it. And it was going to be aimed more towards. This company was aimed more towards people that had been growing tobacco because of the drying sheds and barns, and the equipment that we use can be used for both things, a lot of it. We're planting it on 48-inch rows like we do tobacco. The fertilizing is similar to a certain extent. The equipment that we fertilize with is similar. And even though we did use a lot of liquid this year, I mean, you could go either way. But 3 acres is what we got under a pivot. And we just felt like the 3 acres would be a safety net for us to try it and really get in there and get hands on with it and learn it.
It's been a neat experience.
Yes.
Well, that's why I think Iowa, the kind of the guidelines they put in, not because they wanted to kind of keep a handle on, keeping control of it, but also 40 acres. Anybody that invests 40 acres, a maximum in your operation. Yeah, I mean, if the crop doesn't come in or something doesn't go out, you haven't risked thousands of acres in an operation on something. The biggest thing they've been pushing forward here in Iowa is make sure that if you were doing this, that you had a market set up to deliver the product before you just went up and started planting it, because you'd hate to be getting ready to start harvesting this hemp and not know where you're going to be bringing it, because there was such a rush in a lot of places to put hemp in the ground because, it's going to be the next gold mine, and well, wait a minute, what happens when we have more hemp than they have processing capability, or what happens if they decide they don't need that much, and then what's going to happen? Because the infrastructure for processing has got to grow too.
That's the thing I've noticed, and Benji, Garrett, and I have all learned is, especially Crop Scout Christie, who taught us a lot.
Sure.
The demand. I mean, for people to think that they would ever plant large amounts is a hard thing to do.
you know, and she was mentioning about maybe going into the fiber end of it. We were really interested in the oil part, and that's what this is going to go for, the oil. But I don't know. People don't farm to get rich. There's no way. It's not.
No,
I mean,
no.
you got to
But
be.
you know how it is. If you see something that, oh my gosh, this could be the thing, and you'd hate to, because you'd kick yourself if you missed it. And
But-
so that's where people get excited.
I-
With the way the markets and the
People-
economy have been for farming, it's you don't want to miss it either.
Well, people get into it and don't realize they want to get into it, but don't realize how labor intensive it is.
This is the way I feel about the whole scope of agriculture. This is what I've always said. If it was easy, everyone would do it. If it was
Right.
something to get rich at, everybody, I mean, everyone would want to get in on it.
But see, and
And
that's
we
the
just
thing, is
gotta
everybody got excited because it's like, I want to get my 40 acres in before everybody else gets theirs in,
Sure.
kind of thing. I want to
And-
get my foot in the door first before all the 1,000-acre guys come in and do it.
I just keeps me motivated on a daily basis about farming is that somebody somewhere, it be Los Angeles, New York, or Chicago, anywhere it's big city that just disconnected from the farm, they reach in their pantry, they grab a jar of peanut butter, or they grab a loaf of bread or something. There's some satisfaction in knowing that you helped get that there. And you got to have self-satisfaction like that and enjoy what you do. I mean, because, the average person that think about the bearing that went out on this, or the weather, the storm that's about to approach us in the next, 24 hours. So, I mean, it's all kind of things and missing the little league ball game that you because you stayed home
Or the dance
or
recital.
whatever. That's exactly right. So there's a bit of satisfaction in knowing that your group,
or you
is
stop
winning,
for the
winning,
dance recital or the game, and then you
Yeah.
went right back out it again.
Yeah.
You're covered in
Yeah.
grease and oil, and you're going right back out again.
Or standing
Yeah,
out in
yeah.
the rain to do it live.
that you
Right.
make up 1 to 2% of of the United States or the world that feeds billions. So
I'm gonna tell you what.
You gotta love what you do, or this is pointless.
I saw Garrett Phillips posted earlier that as of 4 o'clock, I think they had 14 inches of rain there at Hartford, Alabama.
Wow.
That rain is coming our way now. It's coming this way. These peanuts and their peanuts don't need this rain. We need a little bit of rain, but not. I think it showed just a minute ago when I looked that we're going to get 6 inches, 7 inches here. That's too much rain for these peanuts. We're going to have
And that's,
mold.
and that's what we got over the course of all of last week. We finally got rain.
there's areas like Brandon said that don't need it, and there's some areas that do. But the biggest thing is it starts putting stress on these vines.
Yep.
Bowl rot with too much rain. I mean, we could stand a little bit.
We can stand in the inch.
Yeah, a little bit, but it just we don't need it. I mean,
The thing that got me here, and go ahead.
Our days are getting short. It's dark where we're at now, and I mean, and our daylights and the growing is about drawn out. I mean, what little bit of doing, it's getting cooler. Very unusual. I mean,
Literally,
it's usually muggy and sweaty.
this morning it was muggy. We came out of the house this morning at 7 o'clock and it was humid, muggy, and now we're down to it's actually down pleasurable weather right now. Not
But see,
muggy.
the way you talk about that was exactly like it was the morning that we have the derecho in Iowa. We walked outside. I walked outside at 6:15, and it was ungodly thick. Like, it was sticky. It was gross. You didn't want to be outside.
Yep.
It was like 86, 87 degrees. It got up into the 90s by 10 o'clock. An hour later, it was 64, and everything was blown to kingdom come. It was just, like you said, the humidity. But, the thing is, you're talking though about, wanting to do it. And this is what gets me. I wish my mother would have taken a picture of this. But my uncle raises hogs, has 3 1,000 head barns that he raises. Well, he has 2, and then he rents ours up in Minnesota. And Mom said he came over the other night, pickup truck loaded down with old rotten apples that just had wind-blown apples. Whole pickup load of them. And what he was doing is he had to give shots to the hogs. He went in there with a bucket of apples into each pen, gave a pig a shot, gave the pig an apple. Gave the pig shot, gave the pig an apple. Every pig, and like you said, though, when they had that apple in front of them, they held still because they wanted the apple and he could give them the shot.
Oh, yeah.
But 1,000 hogs, he went through a truckload of apples, blown down apples from his orchard. I mean, don't tell me these people don't care about the animals, don't care about what they're doing. I mean, you give it a shot, here's an apple for your trouble. And those pigs were so happy to get that apple. My mom said he was out there for 3 hours giving shots and handing out apples.
We raised hogs when I was a kid, and I can remember we'd have them on. We're in the deep south. It's kind of primitive in spots. We had feed floors, but a lot of people didn't have fair houses, and we'd have them outside. They'd have little huts built, and they'd have them. But I can remember as a kid, everybody in this county, even though they really didn't row crop or whatever, they might work at a factory, but everybody had hogs. Everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everyone. I don't know anybody. I can remember going to the feed store and seeing people haul feed in the trunk of cars. I mean, I just remember that when I was a child, but I don't know. You just really got to enjoy what you do. And I feel like that, I see my daughter and she just turned 3. She sees me and Garrett lay up under something and work on it. And then my mother-in-law sends me a video of her laying up under her play car with a wrench in her hand. I feel like people, that people are that come, they're into farming and raised up with it. I think they come out of the, and I don't think that, and it's just something that you can't get rid of. I mean,
right.
It's a desire. I've told people before, if I go broke tomorrow and I got 2 dimes to rub together, I'm gonna buy a bag of seed at Walmart, a little tiny seed, just watch it grow, because I just enjoy doing it.
And that's what always troubles me living in town now. I grew up when we had 200 hogs growing up, and we had 50 hog pens and 2 old barns, and they had an outside slat floor where they could go eat and do whatever they had to do. We would, though, in the farm, my mom would be canning, or we'd be, whenever she cooked or she had vegetables left over, we'd either take a bucket out to the hogs or you take the bucket out to the chickens.
Yeah.
And when she was canning, everything that was left over, I mean, she
Yes,
had
I already ate it.
gallons and gallons of it, 5-gallon buckets full of pea pods or tomato skins or whatever.
Took the
And
pea
you would go
shell
there,
to them and corn shucks, whatever.
and every pan got a bucket full of slop to eat, and now I sit here and I cut off an onion and I had to throw the peelings away. There's nowhere to go with it. I got nothing to eat it. The pigs got some, the chickens got some, and everything was fine.
We come from
like
a family.
Said, now it's so different.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, our family was very frugal. We just didn't waste. We didn't waste anything.
Right.
If you put it on your plate, you better eat it.
Right. And like I said, it was the stuff that was left over, like the eggshells or the apple cores or things like that. You didn't just throw it away. It was, something got to eat it at least. It went to something at least.
Uh-oh.
Dun, 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 dun.
Nice to see you too, Dusten.
Your what hurts now?
My butt hurts. I've been sitting in this tractor for 12 hours.
Well, that's not my problem now, is it?
But look, I have a friend. I have a friend with me.
Well, there's one.
Yeah, no, I have one friend. Look, see.
Oh, at least it's a penguin. I can respect that.
You brought a penguin.
Yeah, I put it on the front so when people are driving by, they can see the penguin, they pay attention, they slow down. It works. It works.
Not a bad idea. Well,
Seriously, it works.
Benji and I are sitting here getting soaked. You know that. We're standing in the hurricane.
If you ain't got enough sense to get out of a hurricane, that's your problem.
Yes, he's finally here. I've been waiting on that.
It's like the chickens on our farm were growing up that stand out in the rain and go like, huh?
Well, here's what it was. I was actually going to do the live down the road about 2 miles. And 5 minutes before the live, we realized I needed to change location. So I come running up here. I throw the sticks down in the ground, get them up, get everything set. Of course, I could have been over there under the barn, but I was down to the last 15 seconds when I set up. And, well, okay, it's raining.
If you ain't got enough sense to coming out of a hurricane.
You ain't got no sense.
Then again, like I should talk, I tried to pull my trash cans in the middle of a prairie hurricane a couple weeks ago.
What the hell?
Kelly, what is that?
Had a nice peaceful chat going on, and here comes Kelly with her bells and whistles and her penguins.
And the chicken. Chick-fil-A. That's right. I had Chick-fil-A.
Okay, hold on. I had to drop my cup.
How did you get Chick-fil-A in the field?
Paige? Chick-fil-A.
The one night I didn't cook. My wife comes home and I said, I didn't cook. Where do you want to go?
Well,
the Lord's chicken.
Guys, no offense, but it's raining and Benji and I are getting wet. It's actually starting to rain harder.
Okay.
So I'm going to hand the show over to you guys. And Brent,
you know, my neighbor just pulled in from his job, and he's a transplant from Georgia. And I'm going to have to ask him about you guys and find out if people down in that part of the state don't have enough sense to come in out of a hurricane.
No, they don't. They don't.
Wait a minute, Kelly. Yeah, Kelly, how y'all coming with the corn?
Well, you can see I'm unloading right now. So that's awesome. Most of the stuff around the shop and our farm was really bad. Like anywhere from 90 bushels an acre to 170, which is 170. That's bad. Yeah.
170. We'll be praying for that.
Then down here, you know, we from a beach. I mean, we can't. If we ain't got no water, we ain't no way. I mean, 170.
170 is like top of the line. We'd all be happy.
I was going to say, Iowa's be praying for 170 this year.
Not around here. Well, we had a bunch that was 90, and for us, that's like really, really low. And then there were some spots that were. There were some spots. Where the hell am I? Okay, we're good. I can't see in the dark. I can't see in the dark.
I got a question. I got a.
We have
How do you
we probably most of the good stuff is 260 to 280, which is great, but we haven't really gotten into the good corn yet. That'll be tomorrow and the weekend. But hey, corn's going up,
That's who's ruining the average with NAS for everybody else.
Hey, look, man, I got bills to pay, okay? No. Hey, USDA.
Quit spraying Miracle Grow on your corn.
Hey, man, all natural, organic cover crop. That's what I'm doing.
Would that happen to be anything like the guy that got busted on Farm Life Classified today?
Hey, quiet. We don't talk about that.
You gotta pay your bills.
You gotta pay the bills, baby. You gotta pay the bills. Absolutely not.
He's gonna pay his supplier.
Yeah, for real. If we didn't have cover crops, Matt said it would probably be even worse. So there's a lot of guys who are doing like 80 bushels an acre. It's bad.
Now, Kelly, when is that corn set to be delivered?
December. So right now, this corn is 118 days. It's this one is 1847, and Matt said it's running at 19%.
19%.
19% at 108-day corn. Or 118, because this is 1847. It's wet.
What can you put in your bin? How wet? 17, 16, 5?
You get docked at 15.
You can put it in the bin at 19 and dry it down.
Yeah, well,
but
you have heat or just air or what? I mean, you got those bins with the little things on top. I mean, stuck all the air in there. So what can you put it in at?
Right. So we have a bin manager, and we put it in there. And the bin manager, you can go on your phone and say, okay, well, I want this bin to be at 16%. So it'll turn the fans on to dry it down, and then if your corn is too dry, it'll actually pull the air back in when the temperature outside is a certain moisture, and it'll actually add back moisture to the corn. Because we don't have a dryer out here. We don't need it. You know, we're in the South. But why is it
how wet can you put it in that bin?
What?
How wet can you put it in, Kelly?
20%. 20%.
Wow.
20%.
You put it in 20% around here to stick to the wall.
We wouldn't be putting no 20% in here, not without a lot of propane sitting on deck.
The style bins that you got to take it. Like these older bins with the dryer on the back side, there's orange looking, they won't take it. Now we're at bins out the top and all. Maybe it's 16 and a half.
Well, the granary here is docking everybody above 15, and we have a friend that we were custom harvesting for, and he was at 18%, and he lost about $500 today. They are not accepting anything wet.
At 18%, how much it was?
So he lost 100. It was a 100-bushel dock, and he lost $425.
That's what they are here. About 123, about 120 bushels or something. What they use to say. If it's not, if it's 18 high. Well, 18,
ridiculous.
If it goes 20, you can take more than that. We done. I'm done. And I'm so glad I'm done. It's just a slow. I don't know how you haul with one truck. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I have trucks.
Now here's your problem though. Not only were you trying to kill wet corn, you were short a combine driver.
26 miles one way. That was one problem.
You were short a combine driver. You were short a truck driver, and you had COVID all at the same time.
You were screwed.
Man, that truck in 26 miles one way and then 18 to another elevator. I don't know how.
Well, Zach goes one way, 53 miles.
It's 3 miles, 4 miles. How close are you from the grain bins to the field?
So right now we're about 11 miles from our grain bins, but in December, Zach will have to haul 53 miles one way. 53 miles one way.
We used to haul to Savannah years ago. That's like an hour. I mean, roughly an hour.
Yeah, it's an hour.
Y'all pet that old truck. Y'all have to wax it.
We don't stop working like ever, so I stopped working in like February. I don't know.
My neighbor next door, I got one neighbor that's running 10 trucks and the other one's running 9. And I mean, you know, and they're hauling. Yeah. And I tell them about you all the time. I said, I got some friends in Tennessee, they got one truck and man, they really work.
Hey, are you hauling?
Heck, we used to do it with gravity boxes.
You're going the hard
Every year
part.
I was hauling gravity boxes back and forth in the field.
Hey, look here. Oh,
Hey, Brannon, my name's Zach. I don't know if you remember me. Oh, you don't like being around me anymore, so I just want to say, hey, this is my yearly check-in.
Nobody chef here is like you, brother.
Holy
I know I'm not camera pretty. It's okay.
Yeah,
Jack around here with me and Gary Jack. I said, you can get it done if you keep the left-hand door shut long enough. You can get it done. Brother, you don't ever open it. You done speak for like that.
We always say, we just work here. We just work here. We just work here.
Is that 1,000 bushel grain cart?
No, what is this one?
875.
875.
1,000 on it.
Matt Griggs puts 1,000 on it. Oh, yeah.
You know, we're getting wet. All right,
We
guys.
almost
Look,
lost the truck.
we're getting wet, and he's got to go home before Mama gets home to him. Yeah, he's got. Oh, wait a minute. I want to go watch Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo. Where are you?
Help us all. Yeah, I gotta go Lord's Chicken. Ooh, I gotta go because I gotta give Zach the Lord's Chicken. So we gotta go. And Matt's waiting on us, so we just don't care. The Lord's Chicken.
Be careful, Kelly.
We will. Y'all too.
Hi, Kelly. Glad you got to see me.
I know it's been a while.
Hey, why did you unfriend me on Facebook?
No, I didn't.
I sent you
You
a friend
unfriended
request because I wasn't your friend anymore. I sent you a request, and that was like a month ago. I'm like, well, fine, be that way.
I probably have to go back and see.
Sending her jokes, and she ain't even looking at them.
I was like, does he hate me? Did he just defriend me? What happened? I don't know what the hell happened.
No, I see how it is.
Oh my God, I'm dead. That's your chicken
Now-
right there, but you got Carter's too.
Am I taking Carter?
Yeah, you're taking Carter's to the house.
Okay.
Oh yeah. I didn't know. Take your chicken.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, Kelly.
Thank you.
Hey, here's the best part. Matt's waiting on us, so we're just like hanging out. Hey, what's he
You know,
gonna
Matt's
do?
probably watching.
Right.
Matt's
So-
probably watching it right now.
I know. I think we say Matt's probably watching it right now.
Hi, honey. How are you? I don't care. I mean, if he fires me, he fires me. It'd just be without a grain buggy driver. It's
What about
okay.
chicken?
It's not. Yeah. What?
I-
He's
I somehow do not think he's going to fire you. That would be a rough night to come home to.
You wouldn't come home, baby. He'd be in the office permanently. Permanently.
Now,
Yeah. At least we don't fight like you guys do. So that's all right. I'll go so I can make sure I friend Dusten right away because I
better.
unfriend.
I'm gonna cry.
Okay, fine. I'll go. Don't make me feel bad. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's the first time I'd ever have done that.
When when you're a celebrity like myself, it's very hard to go through all your Facebook requests and and
I know. Oh, I know. I went out to Washington, D.C., picked up some hardware, and everybody came out of the woodwork and wanted to be my friend.
I know, isn't that great? Now
And
you
I'm
know
like,
my
you didn't talk to me in high school. I ain't talking to you now.
I had to say, that's why I said that. I was like, oh, now he's on Fox News. He's a celebrity, so.
You know it.
well, it's actually starting to rain harder here. We're getting wetter and wetter. Now,
You've
Brent,
been saying that for half an hour. It's wet out here. I'm getting rained on. I'm standing outside in a hurricane.
I'm fixing to leave it with you and Brent so y'all can finish up the show. Brent, tell us a little bit about what you got.
Yeah.
He's still here?
Can you tell us a little bit about what you got going? And then I'll see you
I
both
thought
later.
Brent was sleeping.
I'm just trying to take it all in.
See y'all.
I love it. We're going to get him for a whole show one of these days. It's been a while.
Oh, God bless us all. Help us. Okay, well, y'all go ahead and talk. I got to drive in the city limits, and people don't like, tractors and stuff, so.
Hey, I saw that post earlier that you were doing that.
Yeah.
That's good. I hope you paid attention to all my tips a couple of weeks ago. So you do right in the city there.
Yeah, well, you put a penguin on front and they still don't stop, so it's all right.
I missed that.
Just let them know where they rank in the top 5, Kelly.
Oh God. I'm telling you. I know, a lady in a GMC Denali flipped me off. I was like, I was shocked. I was like, you probably have kids in the car. I was just like, I can't believe this. This is crazy. Yeah, that's what happens when you live out where we live, so it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Bye, Dusten. I will. Bye, Brent. Have fun.
Later.
Bye, Kelly.
Whew. Wow.
I was starting to think you were asleep there, Brent.
No, I was just taking it all in, man. That's a lot of good chatter there.
Oh, yeah.
That's good stuff, man. Well, I tell you what, he was asking about what we've got going on here. We got the old podcast coming up, number 72, coming up on Friday. That's going to come around 7 o'clock Eastern time, Friday morning. We got the Grant Surrey with John Deere is going to be on there talking about trying to address the ag equipment technician shortage, which is kind of the age-old problem there, and bring in Morgan Hester, who's in HR with AHW LLC, and they're a 16-store John Deere dealership in Illinois and Indiana, and they've been going through it here and putting together some really neat partnerships with a couple community colleges in Illinois and Indiana to try to recruit. And John Deere is doing a lot with the military, trying to get folks some hands-on training and get those guys paid and earning while they learn, and have them a career when they get out of the active duty service. So we got a lot on that. And then we talked to the folks from Growmark about their essay contest for some of the FFA students in the Midwest. They've been doing this for 20 some odd years now. And, the challenge for students this year is to come up with any challenge that they see in the agriculture industry and propose a solution to it, whether it's a feasible one with workable things they could do right now or not. They want them to kind of imagineer a solution for any kind of problem out there. So we're going to get them back on around December timeframe and try to get some winners from that and talk about some of the creative solutions that they've come up with. And a lot of times they take what they learn there and apply it to some of the youth education programming that they do through the co-op there. So a neat little program there that's primarily for the folks in the Midwest. They cover the lower 48 and part of Canada, but that's limited to the Midwest. So got my buddy Ray Bohacks, the hot rod farmer, coming up with another installment of Bushels and Cents this week here, talking about how a dead battery that you didn't check before going out into the field could cost you $12,000. So food for thought, $12,000 battery. And then we bring in the music of Alicia Nugent, who we had on the live stream last Saturday. Great bluegrass and traditional country star. Got a new album coming out this Friday, produced by Keith Stegall, who has produced so much of Alan Jackson's work, and George Jones and Randy Travis, and on down to Darius Rucker and Zach Brown band. So she's in good company with that one, and she's done some work with Dolly Parton before, and Tom T. Hall, and just a great lady. We had a great time there. So got some of that music on this week. Big thing tomorrow, 2 o'clock Eastern time. Going to be on with Nick Zachridge from The Ohio State University. He is going to be breaking down. He's the farm manager for the Farm Science Review Show. They're in London, Ohio, usually an in-person farm show, like most of them know, has gone virtual. So he spent the last few weeks just trying to put together the best virtual farm show he can. So we're going to break a lot of that down. We're going to have hopefully some video of some of the field demos to kind of preview those and just preview the show at large. Still got about 400 exhibitors that are going to be participating in that. So they'll each have their own little portion of that show. And that's going to go the 22nd through the 24th. And that's at fsr.osu.edu. And that's free for anybody to check out. So if you're in parts of the country that usually can't make it to Farm Science Review because you're usually hitting the fields about this time of year, good opportunity to get on there at your leisure and check out some of what's going on. And I know John Deere and Case IH at least are two of the big manufacturers that are going to be involved in that. So something to check out there, and that's kind of if there's a silver lining to anything here with all these farm shows that have had to go virtual, it's that, and you see this at Ohio every year, and I'm sure you see it some with Husker and some of these that you get to this time of year, if things fall right, then you've got this dilemma. Do you take time out, that you should be in the field to go do these shows, or do you blow them off, or what? Now you got more of an opportunity to check out some of this content at your convenience. So they're hoping it might spark some new interest in some of these shows.
Yeah, I know we had that with Farm Progress. He was supposed to be here in Boone at the beginning of the month, and they did the virtual here the last couple of days. And but the thing is, we were up there. They brought the media up to have some time to do some field demonstration filming and have a few interviews. But they did it so nobody would be able to come up there. And it was the one thing they said. They were saying, it's nice that we've got this ability that if something goes on like we've had this year, that we can do it. But they said they sure miss the fact that there's not going to be feet on the ground there. I mean, when you stand out in the middle of a field that's supposed to be, it's 600 acres and supposed to be full of tents and people and buildings, and there's nothing there, it really hits you. That's when you realize just how big 600 acres of nothing really is. Yeah. And, and it's just one of those things, they're hoping to get back, and as much as they like the virtual and they're hoping that does spark that content there, they still want to have that. Like I said, just having that face-to-face means so much in this industry.
Well, the tough thing with that grade show too is being that it rotates between there and Decatur, Illinois. I was sitting there watching our buddy Max Armstrong with Matt Youngman today on their noon show, and Matt brought up the point that between this last show they had there and the next show they have there is going to be 4 years, and that's not only is that tough for the people that can't get to it, now it's tough on the economy because that's a big economic driver for that area.
It is. But I mean, Ames is right there for Iowa State, and they got all the hotels, and they are booked years in advance for the Farm Progress. I mean, like when we leave Decatur, when we go to Decatur, or we're in Des Moines, because even over in Des Moines, and Ames is only a 25-mile trip, they keep all of us together at a hotel. They put us up, and we all stay there so we can all just keep working when we get back to the hotel, and we can bounce things off each other, which it does work. But the thing is, when we leave those hotels in Decatur or be it in Ames, we're booking 2 years in advance for the next one already.
Yeah.
And that's a big hit.
That was his point today, because he's had a lot of people say, well, why don't you just push Decatur off another year and come back to Boone next year? But he said by the middle of June this year, next year was so far down the tracks that there was no way to be able to pull it back, because you've got so many contracts with vendors and so forth that just wouldn't be feasible.
And that's what I talked with Mac. Max was at the event, through that media event for a day or two, and we were talking about that very thing. Like you said, it's a shame that and that's why they wanted to make sure they at least did something here to at least keep the field active, and of course they also, with the field here, the people, the farmers that own the field next to the field grounds that they rent out for doing all these field demonstrations. Well, that money was already put in too. Sure. That they work on for those fields. So I mean, they've got those contracts to obligate too. But yeah, like you said, it's just try to get some semblance of something here. But even Max was saying, he really hopes that this is only a one and done kind of thing. But just gonna have to wait and see how this turns out.
Well, he was asking earlier about the National Farm Machinery Show, and so much of that is still up in the air. Last I understood, there was still some concern about kind of a field hospital that's set up out at the fairgrounds where that's held. And if they keep that up just in case, it's taking up a good chunk of farm show territory there. So up to this point, that's still kind of up in the air. I talked with some of the organizers of Commodity Classic, which again will be held down in San Antonio in February. And to this point, that's a go. I know I just got another email about another survey, trying to fish for some information a couple of days ago about that. That was the last show I did, and that's been months ago.
And for that Farm Progress Media Day, that would have been the last thing I did. That's the last time I saw any of our broadcasting friends out there in those media rooms was at Farm Progress, and I'd hate to think that's the next time we're going to see them. But the way it's shaping up for us, the NAFB being virtual this year, that's the way it's going to look.
Well, and that one's a disappointment too, because I really look forward to that. And AAEA, which I also am a part of, that show had been kicked from July to that same week. So they were going to be back-to-back conventions over that 8 days there in Kansas City, and all of it went virtual now. So those are by the wayside. The next one I'm looking at is the Nebraska Power Farming Show. I haven't heard anything about that one. That's an indoor show, one of the larger indoor shows.
And but that's what we're looking at with Iowa. We're looking at with Iowa's in January too, and it's just what's going to happen. I mean, outdoors. If they're canceling outdoors, what's that mean for indoors?
Yeah, for sure.
There's so much hanging on what's going to happen in the next month that we just don't know. And I feel sorry for the people making these decisions. It's like you cancel it a few months out to make sure you're safe, and then what happens if something's cure is found? But you just don't know, and you can't wait too long either.
Well, and the deal is, this is not like Big Ten football where you can just say, "Yeah, we're going to go out and play next month again." You got to pull the trigger on some of these pretty soon, because there's so many logistical challenges there.
Right.
That even though it's not till February, you got to start pinning stuff down.
So many people coming from out of the country. I mean, you think about that, or around the country.
Well, we were talking about that the other day, because we do a lot with World Ag Expo out in Tulare, and there's as far as I know, everything's a go there right now, but that's all subject to change, and that is more of an international show.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of decisions to be made in the next few weeks, but like I said before, I can't see anything changing so drastically that there would be this miraculous recovery.
Well, even if they find something, it's going to take so much time to get it out and mass produce it to everybody. It's going to take forever.
Yeah, it's a real disappointment, and I know the beauty of going to all these in-person shows here is to be able to go kick tires, grab a yardstick, grab an elephant ear, and watch people, BS with everybody at the booths and everything. And to not be able to do that, I mean, that's a tough deal, and I think that's where the virtual shows will run their course pretty quickly, just because you don't have that human interaction.
And that's what with us, with the broadcasters. I mean, people don't realize how close of a family we all are. People think, it's not like normal news where you have competition between the outlets. We're all trying to tell the same story, but for our general area. And the camaraderie we have when we get into those media rooms, and it was just a small scale at Farm Progress Show, but you couldn't even, you can't even give a person a hug or high five them or shake their hands. It's just, we had some people coming down from North Dakota came down here for the show, and it was just, haven't seen them since Commodity. And it's like, it's a close knit group that we are a part of, Brent. You know that as well as I do. And it's just, for us to get together, it's always something we look forward to.
Yeah, most definitely. It's definitely one I look forward to. I'm more of the new guy on the block in that organization, but everybody's really welcomed me with open arms, and man, it's just been so good to really learn from a lot of those guys. Because look, I've spent 25 years in media, but a relatively short time in ag media and broadcasting, and so just to kind of pick people's brains, like you say, and get there and see what they're doing. There's so much creativity. I think that's what people maybe outside of that industry, or maybe even in media in general, don't understand, is just the level of skill and proficiency among not only broadcast journalists, but also print journalists in agriculture. I mean, it's second to none. Just great people covering that industry. And by and large, insulated from a lot of the garbage that's polluted mainstream media these days. A lot of the partisan politics and everything that really drags it in one direction or another. I mean, everybody, like you said, is out there trying to tell the story, tell it objectively, and get all the facts right. So I hope people who consume that media really cling to that and understand that there is a heartfelt desire to get it right and to do right by farmers and ranchers across this country.
And a lot, even beyond just the ag, your local radio stations, your local small market TV stations, like you said, your local print, they're working, and they're getting, unfortunately, a lot of us, and them included, have been getting lumped into this blaming of the mass media. Whereas it's funny, one of our colleagues in AFB, he calls the the big boys. He calls them news entertainment. Like he said, we like to watch college and high school wrestling, but then you can turn on the TV, you see something different. Yeah, it's entertaining to watch, but it isn't quite the same. And he said, and so but the thing is, those are the people that unfortunately are getting lumped into this and are getting blamed for some of this. And it's like, it's not your small market media people who are local and have been local for decades. It's not them at all. It's when you get onto these stations that, are on the premium channels, if you will, that's when you start seeing that kind of stuff happen.
Yeah. Well, I just love the purity of it. And it's doesn't matter if you go to Iowa or where we are in Southern Indiana and Kentucky, or you go out to Nebraska or down to Texas or, into the South, man, there's just so many great broadcasters and so many great print journalists doing it. And it's just fun to see everything that comes out, and I'm sure you are too. Subscribe to just about every email listserv under the sun and everything, and see
get more emails than you know what to do with sometimes.
Your email box just inundated every day with all this stuff, and sadly I don't get the time that I wish I had because I'm too busy trying to crank out my own content to really step back and look at some of that stuff. But when I do get a chance, I'm just astounded at the depth and breadth of information that's there.
Yeah. Well, it is getting dark here in Iowa.
Yeah, it's closed in on you, hasn't it?
It is dark. It's no longer getting. So I think it's time. I'm going to have to call her a night here too, Brent.
All right, bud. Well, it's good talking with you, and I hope everybody else around here has enjoyed it as well. And man, we hope to catch you down the road here soon.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And everybody, I hope you go check out everything he's got going on there in Iowa. Check out everything we've got going on here with Fastline Fast Track. Check out 2:00 tomorrow Eastern on the Facebook pages and the YouTube channel with Nick Zachrich with the Ohio State University and Farm Science Review. Hope everybody enjoys it. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.